Hi everyone. Hi everyone who joined us offline in Wrocław office and online. We are very glad that you are with us this evening or day. I don't know where you're located. So today we have our meetup for software engineers, and we have it in our Wrocław office and streaming online. And yes, we have the recording. So if you want, after we will post it on YouTube, and you can share or rewatch it because you always ask us. And also before our Lena, our recruitment lead in Wrocław starts, I will also add some information and rules. So mostly for participants who are online. So during the talk, please be muted so you will not interrupt our speakers. And about the questions. So after each presentation, we will have Q&A session, and you can ask your questions in the chat, and we will answer them, or you can unmute yourself and we will also hear your question offline and online. And if you are offline, you can just raise your hand and we will answer your question. That's it. And Leona, please start. We will share some information about our company, I think, firstly, and then we will go to our speakers.
Yes, yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Elvina. I'm here today just to give you a brief overview of Grid Dynamics, who we are and what we do, because maybe someone is visiting us for the first time. For those who know about us, well, maybe you will know some more facts. So Grid Dynamics is a software development company, is a technology consultancy company with headquartered in with the focus on providing technology consultancy for the Fortune 1000 companies, quite famous companies worldwide and in the United States. We've been on the market for some time, and here you can see our geography already. We have a headquarters in San Francisco Bay Area, but a lot of offices around the globe. And so far we are 4,000 people globally, growing, opening new locations, growing locations in Europe. Poland has grew significantly for the past 2 years, and we are close to 1,000 people in Poland. In Wrocław, we have close to 200 people, and we keep growing. We have a lot of open positions right now in Poland. We actually focus on technical excellence, and that's why we were recognized among mid-size agile software development companies for hiring top talents, and also investing a lot in our talents, in our engineers, by providing different educational programs. We have great internship programs. If someone has people interested in internship, please ask them to consider Grid Dynamics. And we have great programs on Grid University, a lot of certifications available for engineers, around 50, I guess. So development and growth is like our focus. And if you want to get an understanding of the client's portfolio, you can see some logos here on the screen. And just to give you an overview of the domains that we're specializing on is they are like e-commerce platforms. So we partner with the famous retailers and brands. Also, we have clients and projects from healthcare, pharmacy, automotive domain, manufacturing, and also financial companies that we work with. So like a lot of projects to choose from, a lot of clients that we already help with their digital transformation, and we continue cooperation further. And to be a trustworthy partner, technology partner, we developed core expertise in cloud solutions, in data engineering, in data analytics, and of course, right now, we're actively investing into artificial intelligence, and we are building AI lab inside of the company. We have a lot of R&D projects in this area. So if you're interested in this area, so you can talk to me later. We can discuss how we can get you on board, for example. And yeah, if you're just interested to check our open positions for UI, Java, DevOps, data science, you can visit our website and check the career section. And I will be here for during the meetup and later when we will be having pizza, so we can talk. And I will be glad to tell you more about open positions if you are considering, you know, a change right now. Anyway, I think this is all from me. I don't want to take a lot of your time. And thank you. I wish you to enjoy today's meetup. So passing the mic.
And now we will have presentation from our first speakers, Yaroslav and Jakub.
All right, so I think we can start with the first talk. So hello, everybody, from my side as well. So today we're gonna talk about technological solutions for efficient e-commerce applications. And before we start, let us quickly introduce ourselves. So my name is Jakub Wierzchowiec. I'm Angular developer. I have over 2 years of experience in web development. I'm a computer science student, and in my free time, I enjoy just traveling, taking pictures, and learning new cultures all around the world. And today, I'm partnered by.
Yeah, almost forgot my name. Okay. Hi, I'm Yaroslav Vaskiv. I'm a software engineer, Grid Dynamics for 2 years. I'm almost a student graduate from Lviv National University of Ivan Franko. I enjoy web technologies. I enjoy React. I program in React for 3 years. And I'm interested also in Web3 technologies. So feel free to reach out to me on pizza time and when you would have time for me to talk. So I transfer my word to Jakub.
Yeah, thank you, Jarek. So let's see the agenda for today's talk. We will start with the problem statement to introduce you to the notion of the talk, as the topic we are covering today is a really broad one. Then we will move to the main part, which we call challenges and solutions, in which we will try to show you some couple common challenges which people who build e-commerce applications face, and we will try to give you our soft recommendations or at least sets of guidelines which should help you to choose the most optimal technology for your use case. And then at the very end, we will just wrap it all up and leave you with some key takeaways. So let's start with the problem statement quickly. So when we think about efficient e-commerce applications, we can essentially look at this into 2 dimensions. So the first one will be to upgrade an existing solution, and another one will be to create a new one. Both of them are very interesting, and they contain different sets of questions and considerations. Today, we'll focus on the second one, so creating new solutions. So when we create an e-commerce application, we first of all need to start with the requirements for our application. We need to have a clear vision of the product, of the domain we operate in, as well as some technical limitations our application must meet. Then, second very important thing are the resources for our application. So essentially 2 things: budget we can allocate for the project, and also our development team capacity, because these 2 factors will and may also impact our choices when it comes to technology choice. So the technology is another key thing here, because we need to, when we build application, we should choose the technology which satisfies our needs in an optimal way for our use case, for our possibilities. And this brings us to the last point, which is know-how and expertise. I believe it's fair to say that nowadays it is not easy to build applications in general and e-commerce applications, because there are many technologies available on the market, many architectures, many ways of creating applications. So it's not easy to navigate around all of this. This requires a good knowledge of of technologies, its properties, differences between them. And I would just add a general engineering experience to that list. I believe Yaroslav had something for you.
Yeah, thank you. So I encourage you guys to, before we dive to a theme and talk about some interesting topic we want to present you, I encourage you to scan that QR code by your phone and answer a simple question. It's just formal for us to know who has some opinion. Maybe it differs from us. Maybe it should be different. And I hope it would be interesting to see what we have in our mind. It would just simply ask you what is the most significant thing in e-commerce applications, and you need just to click a few times on the ratings to set from 1 to 5. Let me know if you manage to do that. Good. Yeah. Yeah, and I want to give you a little bit of disclaimer for today. So we are not a guru of e-commerce application. We not going to talk you about you need to do that, you need to do other things. No, we're just suggesting we explore this thing, and I want to enjoy this presentation with you as well. So we would wait maybe a couple of seconds more. I encourage our online users to do that as well. So you online sitting in your room are not alone. So you have some interactivity with us as well. All right. Yes, and we would have results of our survey at the end of our presentation. It would be just, for me, it would be fun to see what opinion do we have. So I transfer my word to Jakub. So thank you for taking the survey, and relax and watch your presentation.
Okay, thank you. So let's tackle these challenges and solutions. So we'll start simple with some small businesses. So let's imagine a small business. It can be a flower shop nearby. It can be a group of students who craft some jewelry to earn some money, or any different sort of business, small one. Not surprisingly, one day owners of such business may think, "Hey, let's create a website to boost our market visibility and recognition. We want to make it easy for customers to get in touch with us, to reach out to us, to ask questions if they are interested in our goods. We don't care so much about the technological excellence. We just want to quickly and efficiently reach the market and start earning money. It would be really nice if this website would have an attractive design to show our products in best light possible, and also describe these products with some intriguing and catchy descriptions. So when we look at this landscape, at all of these things, we can conclude that that what is needed and what will be sufficient in such use case can be just a simple text web page with some basic functionalities like a card, like a contact form, etc. And to create such solution, I would recommend two approaches. So the first one would be to use something, I would say, ready or out of the box, like CMS, or there is also alternative path to develop a custom piece of software. Let me give you a quick summary of these two approaches. So CMS stands for hello, have a seat. Yeah, so CMS stands for Content Management System. And this is a piece of software which allows to create website and easily manage content displayed on them. So this can be photos, the descriptions, the prices of our products. And it does not require advanced programming skills for such tasks. And the most popular software of this kind is WordPress, as you can see. And CMSs are great because they offer a lot of attractive visual themes, as well as the plugins, which will help you to handle basic functionalities of e-commerce application like payments, search engine optimization, and content management in general. So So yeah, so that would be the CMS in a nutshell. I just wanted to point out here that even though CMS may look so great, there's one caveat to this. The like optimization options and customization options may be sometimes challenging or limited to a certain degree. If we want to have unlimited customization options and freedom in development, we should definitely go for custom software. For the sake of today's presentation, I will just focus on web applications. And nowadays, by web applications, we understand SPA applications, so single page applications, right? These are these applications in which a single HTML document is loaded into the browser, and the DOM structure defined by this document is managed using JavaScript. There are many SPA frameworks and libraries. Some of the prominent, the most developer-friendly are React and Vue.js, just to give two examples. And as I mentioned, custom software will help you to create a product which will perfectly match your functional requirements and which will handle the most sophisticated design your UX designer may even think of. But on the other hand, it will require much more developer effort, right? There's nothing for free. We can mitigate this a little bit by using UI libraries, like for example, MUI for React or PrimeView for Vue.js and any other UI library which suits your SPA framework, right? So just to wrap up this slide, if your product is very typical, it has some custom common properties like size, name, price, photos, etc. You can definitely go for CMS, but there's this point which we just reached. If your product is very unique or it is very customizable, like your customer can customize it to some degree, you should definitely go for custom software. So I wanted to show this example. I hope everything is well visible. So Nike, one of our company's customers, has this feature on their website called Nike by You, and it allows customers to design their own pair of shoes. Customers are able to modify any area of the shoe they like, and also these areas differ across the different models, and customers can add even a custom labels like pre-dynamics in this case. I hope this is visible on the shoelace. So if your product is very customizable, very unique, you should definitely think about the custom software instead of using CMS. But if your product is typical and you want to deliver the value quickly, CMS can be a good option for you as well. Yeah, so now we are reaching a second problem, target devices, right? We should definitely consider the ways our customers are going to interact with our application. And I wanted to start this topic by saying that for the target devices, it is not so important to choose the coolest and latest technology possible, because many technologies are able to handle multiple target devices in a satisfying way. It is more important to precisely understand your needs. And for this, I want to provide you with these 4 questions, which should make it easier for you. So let's start with the first one. Client or associate? Is your application going to be used mostly by your clients or by your associates, right? I will start from the associates. If your application is going to be used by your associates, you can go for a standalone desktop application or a web application, which is not super responsive. That's because the hardware used by our associates will be standardized to a certain degree. Yeah, right, all the associates will use similar models of computers or phones, so responsiveness is not super important. The situation changes when we think about the client applications, right? Here, responsive web application seems to be a minimum, as our customers can use different devices, right, with different screen sizes. That's the first thing. We also don't want to make them to install any additional software. So web application seems to be a minimum. We can, of course, add a mobile application later on, which brings us to the mobile usage question. how often your application is going to be used on mobile devices and for how long. Essentially, we can show two groups, two characteristics of mobile usage of e-commerce application. So the first one will be, the first group will contain applications which are used rarely and for a short time. And the second one, the opposite, the applications which are going to be used much more often and in a longer sessions, right? So just to give two examples. So for the first group, this rarely used ones, think of the application for buying tickets for public transport, right? The customer opens the application, finds the connection he or she is interested in, buys the ticket, and this is good. We can say, in other words, the customer has more or less precise vision of what he's looking for. On the other hand, think about the applications for buying clothes from your favorite clothes store, right? Customers usually spend a long time just browsing the products, comparing, thinking what they like, and maybe they buy, maybe they will visit our stationery shop. So in other words, the customers don't have a very clear vision of what they are looking for, so they will be spending more time on their mobile device. And the rule here is very simple. The more common and the more often your application is used on mobile, the more seriously you should start thinking about developing also the mobile application which will support the main web application. That's because mobile applications have several benefits. First, they provide better ergonomy for our users. They also help us to better utilize hardware capabilities, like a camera, for example. And also, I forgot what I wanted to add. But we definitely reached the third point, the third question, which are offline capabilities. We need to think how advanced capabilities we want to provide for our customers. The more advanced they are going to be, like, for example, storing list of coupons, storing list of favorite products, loyalty cards, etc., etc. If we want to provide some advanced capabilities for our customers, we should definitely think about mobile applications or standalone desktop applications. It will be just easier to handle offline capabilities. I'm not saying it's not impossible for web applications. No. But it will be just much easier the other way around. And then we have last question. What is our development team capacity? Yeah, I mentioned this in the problem statement part as well. We should start by saying that mobile application development differs from web application development. It will require developers with different skill set. So this automatically increases your team size, right? We need more developers with different skill set. Also, even if we just stick to the web application, there are some aspects of web application development which are just time consuming. For example, the responsive design, which I mentioned a couple of times. It requires designing a couple of versions of our application and more developer effort, and also providing the cross-browsers compatibility, because different browsers have different rendering engines. So the same styling which looks good on Chrome may not necessarily look good on Safari as well, for example. So even the web application itself can be challenging. And when we add the mobile application to this list, we should really consider our capacity here. Yeah, so the idea of our presentation was we are not going to juggle with the coolest technologies and so on. And I'm not going to do this. I just wanted to show you a couple of some cool technologies, in my opinion, give a shout out to a couple of them in case of target devices. So for web applications, there are many great frameworks. Like I could replace Next.js with many other different frameworks. I wanted to give some shout out to this one, as it has great server-side rendering capabilities, which can be crucial when we speak about the low speed of our application, the bundle size, etc. For standalone desktop applications or mobile, and also mobile applications, And there is this cool framework called Ionic. It is cool. Why? Because it allows us to create desktop applications like for macOS or Windows, for example, but using standard web technologies we all know and we all like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. No need for using some specialized tools like JavaFX or WPA, C#, you know. In the mobile landscape, there is important distinction. There are two approaches I showed here. So the first one will be to develop native applications for each operating system, for example, iOS, Android. And another one would be to use a multi-platform approach. This means that, for example, that we are able to develop like one application, say in Flutter or React Native, and then compile it to the native code, which can be run on both iOS and Android. So if your development team, mobile development team is limited, you can think about the multi-platform approach. But if you have the capacity, you can develop a separate application both for Android or iOS, right? Of course, as always in life, if something is universal, our optimization options will be limited. On the other hand, we can achieve much better optimization when developing the application natively for given platform. Which brings us to CEO, and I will invite Yaroslav to the stage.
All right, thank you, Jakub. Thank you. As someone, I saw Adrian is already sleeping. Don't worry, pizza would be in another 30 minutes or something. So pizza is waiting. All right. So while pizza is waiting, I want to tell you something about CEO optimization. While our presentation has naming of keys to success in e-commerce, some of us might think, all right, speaking about technology, you're right, we could pick some technology with idea of reactive programming or something. Oh, almost forgot. Don't miss Piotr's presentation, which would be held on the topic reactive programming. So we all know that we could use the meta tags. We all know that we could include it inside of your head component. We could use some sort of semantic in our application. There is a huge, massive project, the Semantic Web, by Berners-Lee, if I'm not mistaken, who just created our statement about Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. And we all know that success in social media and your e-commerce applications, so as, for example, our client Macy's or some others, they are all having a war between each other. So their application indexing on the top of our search engine. And even Google suggests to stick to a semantic web paradigm. And among all solutions we could improve in SEO, I just mentioned it as key to success because it's very important to mention SEO. All right.
And to be able to switch slides.
Yeah, and be able to switch slides. All right. So I want to mention some of technologies that could slightly improve our SEO optimization. Maybe you would have another opinion about that. And I encourage you to disagree with me even because I'm not a, as I said before, guru of programming. So you could even disagree with me and argue. So I would mention React Helmet and next SEO SSR possibilities. As Jakub said previously, it is a very great tool. Vue is offering us Vue Meta, which is also a perfect solution. And Angular stands with his own solution, Angular Universal, for SSR rendering and improving our SEO as well. It's not a comparison, it's just a quick look as we include either a SEO or some possibilities or even some performance and budget optimizations that I would tell you in a couple of minutes. And I just show you that tools we could use enables our search engines to crawl and index our applications more efficiently. So I would rather give a huge shout out to those technologies. Speaking about that, it was just a quick suggestion for you to keep in mind that even in JS application we could use a SEO optimization, but our modern React SPA frameworks give us some other opportunities to handle that. And speaking about budget, performance, and cost optimizations, we all know that, for example, consider I'm a huge businessman. No, just maybe I just trying to stand like a businessman, you know. So here's the thing: we all obviously know that we are limited to our budget. We are limited in our technology choice because we hire as a team lead, as a businessman, as a project owner. We hire people to suggest us our technology, and obviously comparing some modern frameworks would not be such logical thing, because they are all rapid, you know, and it is another war about performance between our modern SPA frameworks. From day to day, every week, some group of engineers or company develops a new framework, as Solid do, as many others. And if you consider some situation when you are already team lead or granted for a team lead position, and your boss telling you, okay, you have a possibility to hire 2 qualified engineers, and where they can, they say, for example, we know only Svelte JS technology, and you have a choice. While budget is pressing for you, as cost optimization is present, and you need to stick with some limitations you have, you rather could take a beautiful choice, as we in Grid Dynamics have take some internal courses to learn some technologies, or pick that frameworks they're using. It is not so critical, but it ends up, for example, I have in my experience using Gatsby.js, which is a very perfect tool, but it is not fine integrated with the Strapi content management system, and we end up our build process for 2 hours or 3 hours on not such a rapid instance, because budget is pressing, as I said before. So 3 hours when you change some text in a content management system, you need to wait 3 hours. Yeah, please.
How many entries? How many static pages?
Static pages for 40, maybe 40, 50, yeah. 40 static and dynamic pages as well. So maybe dynamic pages are 15 or something. So we end up having a build process for 2 hours. And then we switch to Next.js, which is 2 minutes, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So we now built our application for 2 minutes. The thing, we end up that as we pick some technology, some engineer which was keen on that technology picked up that solution. Then we end up that it is almost impossible to upgrade in 2 years all the libraries we have. And now we switch to Next.js, which is a very powerful tool, as I said before. So I need to not stick with performance, because you might argue with me, but every framework has better and better and better performance. So I need to just mention 4 things about JavaScript performance, that you end up paying performance tax on cost on downloading the images, parsing and completing compressed file once downloaded, also the cost of executing the JavaScript, and the memory cost. All right, therefore, I would also show you some Web Vitals graphics. And you might disagree with me, but as I see a cumulative layout shift, first input delay, it is pretty much the same. I mean, 2% is not a significant thing. And I would to summarize that from day to day, companies are adding some more technology solutions, but since ES6, in my opinion, there were not gigantic jump between our technologies and software solutions. I mean, so gigantic. And from day to day, React, as well as Vue, as well as Svelte, Amber, etc., improving their capabilities. But who knows? Maybe Web3 would dive into our lives, and maybe in 2 years we would use all that technology. Who knows? And after we would have a Q&A session, so you could argue with me. You could say, "Oh, you're telling some not good things." I'll say, "Okay, okay, okay." You know. So all right, jumping to another slide of enterprise, Jakub would continue our thought. So grab that little thing.
Yeah, thanks. So I started with small businesses. Now let's take a look at some bigger players. Like Olena mentioned at the beginning, many of Grid Dynamics customers belong to enterprise and and also to e-commerce, say Home Depot or Macy's. So when we switch from some small businesses to some large scale ones, our perspective will change. There will be two things which will be important for us, which will drive a little bit our decisions. So the first one will be accountability to stakeholders. So essentially people who fund our business, who evaluate its market performance, and also the performance of our application itself. Also, we will start thinking more and more about revenue on invest. Yes, the application is not different than the business it handles. It must pay off in a long-term perspective, of course. When I was talking about small businesses, I was talking about attractive design, descriptive text, etc., etc. For enterprise applications, there is another thing which is very important: functional requirements. Because the more our position grows, we will start thinking about giving our customers different capabilities and different features, which can be available on different markets or globally, etc. So for this, to make this possible, we will need a technology which is scalable, which allows multiple distributed teams to work together on one application effectively. And also we will need a technology which is stable and reliable in such a sense that it is that we are able to maintain our application for many years and easily fix the bugs, and we don't have to care about so much about some incompatibilities, etc., etc. The side consideration beside technology itself is the architecture of our application. We should make it easy to scale it, to find the potential bugs and fix them if they exist. So before I reveal my recommendation for enterprise e-commerce applications, please don't treat me as an oracle. This will be soft recommendation. I wanted to quickly summarize the most important advantages of this SPA frameworks in the field of enterprise applications. So the first one is maintainability. This framework has well-established and transparent deprecation and release schedule, so it is easy to migrate between the versions and be up to date. It is also developed by a single development team. It was developed by Google, just to add. And as a fun fact, it is used for building internal applications at Google. So before any new feature is released, it is firstly tested internally at Google on their own applications, like thousands of them, before it is released to the public market, to us developers. This is a framework. So as many frameworks, this one is not different. It adheres to batteries included philosophy, as I call it. So we have all the tools. This framework provides us with the tools to solve the most common tasks and problems in our developer life, which reduces the risk of incompatibilities between the core modules and the need for third-party libraries in general. This brings us to the next advantage, which are proven engineering practices. So in my opinion, and not only my opinion, this framework is strongly opinionated, which means that some practices are built into the framework or imposed on the developers, which for some people, for some part of the audience, may be discouraging because some people just prefer to have more freedom. But on the other hand, such approach directs developers to use well-tested practices, which make the development more predictable and more trustworthy, I would say. And there is also this point about standardized architecture. So almost all applications in this framework look very similar, so which makes onboarding new developers easier. And also the framework promotes modularity. I believe you disagree with me.
Afterwards,
Okay. What would you say for this?
I would say every Angular application has different architecture, and most of the time it sucks.
Okay, so what would okay, what would be your pick then? What would be
I mean, I just would not say standardized architecture. Yeah, Angular fits well into all those points, and it's all true. But standardized architecture, I mean, usually applications don't have architecture at all. Some of them use like clean architecture, this DDD stuff, Manfred Sawyer.
Manfred Steyr, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like different. In all applications, almost in all applications is different in terms of architecture, but other points just
yeah, maybe that was a bit bold from my side. Here I mostly meant like this modularity, modules, etc.
Even with modules made, now standalone components that people also like
divert. Yeah, and I'm not saying that like in any framework you can have a great architecture. So that's why I put this as the last point.
Yeah. You just programming in Angular, so you're promoting your.
I may be biased. Yeah, I agree.
I think architecture is the responsibility of the team. And
of course, you can develop great architecture in any framework.
Yeah,
I agree.
Framework. And shitty in any framework as well.
Yeah, I know such examples from my experience as well. Yeah, yeah, I love these discussions. Okay, so now we reached the last topic, which I will be covering. These are multiple language versions in our applications. So we live in the era of globalization, so it is common to sell products to customers speaking different languages on different markets. And for this, our e-commerce application should definitely be able to support a couple of language versions. So the multiple language versions are part of a broader concept called internationalization, I18N. There is also a concept of localization, L10N. I wanted to introduce you to both of them quickly. So internalization means developing applications in such way that they are able to easily use in multiple languages. In practice, this means separating the content for translation. We usually store it in a separate files. We should also be mindful of the bidirectional text support, because in some languages, for example, in Arabic, we write from right side to left side instead of the other way around, which we are used to. We should definitely choose Unicode as the encoding to make sure that all the characters from all the languages are covered. And just a simple rule, just a simple advice, we should keep in mind that the same words in different languages can have different lengths. So a word which is very short in English can be very long in a different language. So about the localization, localization is adaptation of our internationalized application to a specific locale. A locale is a region where people speak given language or its variant, have their culture. This can be a little bit associated with the business market. So example can be, for example, FRCA, so French used in Canada, for example. In practice, localization means formatting a couple of things in our user interface. So this can be numbers and prices, units of measures, just to give example, or dates, because as we know, different nations write a date differently. Localization can also mean changing the UI layout, because in some locale, it may be just preferable to switch the design. And also localization will encompass all of these legal requirements as different markets can put on us. I wanted to now show this example of Starbucks homepage, as it is a really interesting one of internalization and localization in one place. So on left-hand side, we have the American version of the homepage, and on the right-hand side, we have Arabic for the United Arab Emirates market. So we can see that not only the language changed itself, that's very trivial, but also even the UI layout is inverted to handle this inverted direction of the text. And there can be some other aspects. Localization can even mean like adjusting the pictures to a given culture, because some other different cultures may look differently on different things, etc., etc. Now I wanted to quickly show some theory about the multiple language versions. So for any SPA framework, there is a full translation library, and we can essentially divide these applications into two groups. There are two main approaches for such libraries. So first one is compile time translation, and the second one is runtime translation. Let me walk you through both of them. So in compile time approach, we will be building multiple versions of our application, each version for each language, which can allow us to achieve better optimization, as we don't have to include the translation logic in our application, which makes its build smaller and easier to transfer over the network, for example. Depending on the technology you are using, the framework, the configuration may be more difficult than in runtime approach. And for example, the default localization package of Angular is compile time based. On the other hand, we have runtime approach. So we will have a single build of our application. We will include the translation logic in the application we build, which will make it a little bit bigger. But this has this advantage that the language switching will be faster, because we don't have to reload the whole application when we switch the languages. We just change the parts, the language specific parts. In the compile time, the language switching will not be as fast, as we have to reload the whole application. The configuration will be usually simpler than in compile time approach. For example, the React I18 Next library is runtime based, but there are many examples for Vue, for Svelte, which are runtime based as well. And and I also wanted to give you just two general examples. So in case when you're developing a client-facing application and you care about the application size, how fast your application is going to be loaded, and maybe you are also able to localize the user beforehand, where he or she is located, then you can use the compile time approach, compile time library for handling multiple language versions. On the other hand, if you're not able to localize user, or you want to provide the ability to quickly change the languages, you can definitely go for the runtime approach. I think the runtime approach can be a good option if we are developing a application for self-checkouts, because we don't want the whole application to reload, but we want to give our customers the option to quickly switch languages, because, for example, some of them speak English, some of them speak Spanish or French, or any other language like Polish. And now comes Yaroslav with accessibility.
Yeah, so I would give a quick shout out to accessibility team. Do not be worried, a couple of minutes and pizza would come, pizza. And all right, Let's stick with accessibility. From 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 what I am seeing, that topic is another key to success in e-commerce. I recently read about legal and regulatory compliance that are in many states of US, and it is integrating in our locations in European Union. You would be your company or company you are working with would be fined if, for example, they are not their design or application are not interactive with people who are having some eye problems or something. And I would give some important points, which I think I could suggest you to stick with. And oh, we have not. It is not basically a technical issue. I want to remind you that people with eye disability sees our page like that. So there is no nice images when you are putting some, as Jakub mentioned, on Nike website, constructor of a shoe. You have no interactivity with your eye when you have some disabilities. So we need to make sure about that. And from bottom of my heart, I need to suggest you that of course, to understand the discomfort of application, we could just close our eyes for 5 minutes and interact with screen reader. I want to remind that screen reader is a tool which helps us to interact with page. Also, screen readers, which I had argument with our accessibility specialist on our project, might not detect and announce all the content changes, and what is readable for users should be readable for a screen reader. This is like, I don't know, if you have image, better to have input name in content management system and use it as alt tag and something, or just describe it a little bit. I'm mentioning accessibility. Of course, we are all well known of this theme, but it ends up that we are completely missing that, and on the same time we having some problems with that. And about legal and regulatory compliance, I already mentioned. So every company is trying to do their best to achieve all the state or countries requirements about that. All right. So to sum up all we just said with Jakub, I would just say that nothing is universal. From what we are talking about, that even if you have chosen some technologies which is 2 or 3 minutes quicker, or you just picked a well-known modern framework, or you just stick to some other paradigms. It is the choice of right technologies, and yeah, as we've spoken, have had an argument about declaring some architecture of application. And the lack of knowledge about some of points might be terrifying, not in the day of suggesting it to the clients, but in my case, in 2 years, end up with changing completely to another framework. And the approach ensures that a commerce application is user-friendly, and even your choice, as we in survey had a statement, some other thing, as you might suggest some other topics to us, it ends up to do some like leveraging the right technologies and paradigms to achieve a goal to success in e-commerce. So thank you. It's now a QA session. Feel free to, I hope everything was clear, and feel free, online users as well. We remember about that. How are you doing, online users? So please tell some thoughts, maybe some arguments as with architecture about Angular, as we've spoken before. Yeah. Throw us bananas if you don't like us. Tomatoes.
Oh.
Tomatoes as well.
Yeah.
Right. So any questions?
I can
Let's
see.
give some time to online users. Maybe they are typing
Yeah.
something.
Okay, so during the talk we can read questions or you can ask questions.
It's my comment.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So guys, we don't have questions.
Oh, we have.
We
I have
have.
one.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so we mentioned that we have like two options, either the basically three options, either the mobile application, native mobile application, or web application, or both.
Mm-hmm.
Would you consider also web application with PWA capabilities? Because basically it would cover the cases with ability to install it on a mobile and provide like mobile native experience. It will also give you access to some native APIs, and it would still require one team, one stack, one skill set, less cost. So would you consider PWA? Why not? If not, and web, yes.
PWA?
Yeah, progressive web application.
Progressive web application. Oh, I haven't actually thought about that during creating the application, but the idea seems to be very interesting. I feel like it all depends on the level of performance you want to achieve, or the optimization level you want to achieve. As you mentioned, your solution seems to be very universal. And if we are pressed by time, this can be also an option which can lay on the table. So I'm not against it. I'm not against it. Thank you for this point out, by the way. Sure. What is your name, by the way? Arthur. Yeah. Like we have gifts for active audience.
Start with it. I have another question.
We need to encourage you to put some interesting questions, maybe, as I said, show banana or something, because we prepare some gifts for most active participants of the event. So I think maybe we somehow encourage you to put
So
some
Arthur
questions.
has
No?
already deserved, but don't worry, there will be the second talk. So, the speakers are not included for gadgets, Piotr. But keep trying.
The question still.
Yeah?
There must be a difference in how an application is updated. And obviously it's a different approach when you ship a mobile application that the user installs and chooses to update or not, versus a web application
Which you deploy.
and you can make it interact with your server. So do you have some recommendations about how to update a web application?
All right, so we need to repeat to our online users. So
I thought you were going to answer.
No. Have some recommendations for what?
For upgrading web applications. So before we even thought about the upgrade, we should consider whether our core packages and our dependencies are compatible with the version of the framework we want to upgrade to. And then if there are no obstacles, and we are free to upgrade, to deploy the new version, to upgrade the framework. I would suggest that if your technology is versioned, always be one version behind the actual version. So for example, if your technology, let's say about Angular. So for example, if your technology, your framework is in version 18 or reaches the version 18, now it's a good time to upgrade to version 17, because we know that many child time issues were probably solved by this time. So my suggestion will be to not to upgrade on the day of release of the new latest version, wait some time and then upgrade.
Maybe also a problem with some dependencies. Perhaps you have some dependencies version of Angular. We cannot update your version of application because of some other dependency.
Yes, of course, like dependencies incompatibilities can be a blocker, of course. Yes, please.
Please, your name also.
Sure, my name is Kasper.
Cześć, Kasper.
In a while, I've been working with Angular.
Mhm.
When I've been working with Angular, RxJs was trending technology, trending approach to my architecture, which, by the way, brings me to this meetup. But actually, I have a question for someone who is working, on a daily basis with this technology. Is there any other approaches or architectural designs to make a Angular application, or the RxJS is the standard and following the React programming?
So I believe RxJS or Reactive project is like a market standard for handling reactivity, and RxJS, I know that RxJS is painful for many Angular developers and considered to be one of the most difficult things in Angular. Fortunately, last year, the signals appeared, and signals are just a solution for a particular use case of reactivity. It is like synchronous reactivity. So, but other cases, when you have some asynchronous operations or some reactivity, you will still be using RxJS. So, for example, HTTP calls, etc., etc. Then you will still be using RxJS, but for synchronous reactivity. So, for example, we click a button and we want to see immediately the update in our template. Then you can switch from RxJS to signals, which will be a little bit easier.
And we would have, by the way, a presentation next about reactive programming, don't we? So please don't miss it, and we would cover all the things. So,
but we can discuss RxJS during the networking time as well. Yep. Feel free to reach out.
Any other questions, maybe?
Okay, guys, I think that we will stop at this point, and because we have one more presentation. Thank you guys for this presentation. It was really nice, and I hope that you will discuss all other questions during the pizza time. But now we will have, I think, 6-7 minutes break to change the laptop and to continue with the Piotr's presentation with the next one. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we are ready to start with the next presentation, I think. It will be the presentation about reactive paradigm and from Piotr Kalachyn, and please start.
Yes, hello, thank you, Elvina. So welcome again. My name is Piotr Kalachyn. I'm a senior UI developer for Grid Dynamics. I've been with the company for 3 years and some months. And today, I would like to talk about the paradigm of the reactive programming, the mindset of it. Okay, so is this working? Yeah, it is. Yeah, this is me. I've been in the industry for quite a while. I graduated from the Minsk Radio Engineering Institute and worked as a programmer, focusing on the user interface before the front end was invented. Created many web applications for non-governmental, scientific, artistic, and commercial applications. And for the last several years, I'm focusing on the front end, the UI. And the reason why I wanted to talk about the reactive programming is that a mindset of how we think about development dictates what solutions we create. I remember this breakthrough when I switched from the paradigm of structural programming to object-oriented programming. I thought, wow, we can actually connect things with actions and they know about themselves. And how cool is that? Probably none of us remembers the time before the structured programming paradigm when we had to write all the instructions in one list of machine codes. Luckily, but reactive programming paradigm is something that opens more horizons. And actually, it was brought about in the previous section, just a short digression, really, that Angular is notorious for being a steep learning curve framework, too complicated, and so on. And when I was a mentor for interns in Grid Dynamics here, I was thinking how to simplify this entrance to Angular for them. And I figured out that the most complex thing about Angular is actually RxJs, the library and the concept of reactive programming. If you take type and TypeScript, because it's not obvious for those who begin to programming. So I figured out that if you take half an hour to introduce the interns to TypeScript, just enough to start working, and then maybe 2 or 3 hours, half a day, okay, to introduce him to reactive programming, then the rest is just a UI framework where you have components, inputs, outputs, templates. Done. Yeah. So some of us work in Angular, some of us work in React, where reactive RxJS is not usually used. Some even work with some exotic engines like handlebars and so on, or some create vanilla JavaScript code. And my point of this presentation is, if we embrace the concept of reactive programming and the library for it, RxJS, then we can use this breathing, refreshing ways of programming in whatever other frameworks we use. So the plan for today, as I remember, is to introduce you, and some of you are, of course, familiar with RxJS, some not. Then we'll go through the basic concepts, and I will show how a simple application that uses RxJS as a library, and then, of course, we'll open to discussions, protests, questions, and suggestions. First of all, how many of you actually use RxJS? Yeah, quite a few. Yeah, so the lucky ones, those who work in Angular, somehow forced into it because it's adopted by the framework. But I thought it's a valuable addition to our arsenal. Okay, so the basic principles of it is data streams, immutability, and asynchronous processing. And data streams, as RxJS puts it very nicely, covers an empty tile in the wall of single values, arrays, promises, and then there's no plural for promises. Yeah, so you can think where we have asynchronous processing of data streams, value streams, it's where RxJS comes into play. And immutability is an important quality which often we use in many cases. Like often working with databases for applications, I would tell business users, like operators who actually type things and make the developer's life a hell. I told them never reuse an entity, like never reuse an ID. Like if you're not working with this client anymore and you have a new client, It doesn't mean that you put the new name into the old card in the catalog, because it will break up the system. You will have invoices for the old customer with the new customer. Don't do that. Okay, so that's also immutability. We can, yeah. And asynchronous processing, of course, is, yeah, we can't do without it because life is full of events. We'll go in a little bit more details. Yeah. So actually, RxJS doesn't have the monopoly for reactive programming. It's just one library, which is very good and very popular. And it has its franchise versions in different ends. Like there's Java, Rx Java, there's RxJS is for JavaScript. Not necessarily front end, because we know JavaScript runs in different environments like server-side. Reactive project.
Reactive initiative, which
Mhm.
supports for C#
Yeah.
Java.
Good, thanks. Okay, so elements of reactive programming we see in React, actually. I thought, well, there's no RxJS in React, but it's called React, so it has something reactive. And of course, we see there definitely elements of immutability, because this is how React reconciles what parts of the web page to update or not, based on the fact if a reference is changed or not. But then when it comes to asynchronous operations, well, React doesn't offer so much tools for that. We usually use other libraries to create chains of events and side effects, like state management. Yeah. Obviously, you can argue and mention context and use reduce and so on. Angular, of course, is all soaked with RxJS and reactive programming. They decided to build on it. And but then again, when it comes to immutability, we see that it was adopted in Angular only later, when they decided to introduce this React-style change detection. They don't use the pull-based updating of the page, like checking if the value has changed, the calculated value has changed or not. They decided to go to the kind of more push-based, almost, checking the referential identity. And then if the input reference has changed, they updated them. Okay. And in JavaScript Web API, we have event handling. Events come from the Web API, are fed into the JavaScript engine, and there things happen when there's a keyboard event or network event and so on. Okay, so the elements we see. So data streams are all around us. They can be like user events, let's say, some telemetry when we have a remote thermometer checking the temperature in different rooms and feeding it to our data server, or battery cycles, or some distance traveled by a lift. If you have like thousands of lifts around the globe and you're getting this data, had an application like this once. And of course, everything like exchange rates that jump up and down, sports scores, and so on. So we're surrounded by data streams. And it's nice to have some tool set for them. Yeah? And in all programming languages, we have data structures that handle lists, arrays, and so on, and even matrices. In JavaScript, it's usually array, yeah, set map, yeah. But they are those that come out of the box are kind of static. You can declare array, you can add something to it, but it's not by itself an asynchronous source of values. Okay, so immutability, as we said, is identifying something by reference, not by what? Not by content, not by value. Yeah. And we can with this assumption, if we stick to this practice, then we can consider, and things don't get old, they don't change by themselves. If they change, they get a new reference, and then we know they're new. Until then, we consider the object is unchanged. And this is why we have state management and not only state. If we just share state and allow every unit of code to write and read from it at any time with no flow, then we end up in problems because we have inconsistent changes. We don't know what changes data and so on. With immutability, we can actually organize more consistent flow when we know what changes what and when it changes. Right. So asynchronous processing, the metaphor would be, we see it a lot in life. Like if you have kids and you go and try to call a kid to come for dinner. And they say, okay, I'll finish this episode, or I'll finish this round of game, and then I'll come. And so they get the signal, they continue the main thread, and when they're done with the main thread, they interrupt and handle your request. And there are different granularities in how threads are interruptible. Like in the years when I was still kind of involved with more low-level, device-level programming, there was this concept of system interrupts in like IBM processors, where the main execution would memorize the code pointer, handle a system interrupt, and then return to the same pointer and carry on. This is a very granular thing. Most often, we cannot allow this kind of level of interruption in life. And I asked around, and what I thought was, like, if you raise a hand in the middle of my sentence, I will try to finish the sentence, and then I will attend to your hand. Obviously, we do it all the time in meetings, and this is a reasonable way. A more hardcore case would be a minesweeper disarming a mine, and then an officer comes and orders to go somewhere else. Obviously, the minesweeper will finish handling this current mine, otherwise everybody blows up, and there's no point. Yeah. So this is asynchronous processing, and of course, this is how the event loop in JavaScript operates. It's a single thread environment. The web API feeds a call into the call stack. A callback into the event queue, and then the event loop comes. When it's done with the main thread, it looks, well, okay, what is in the queue? It's very much like we handle text messages these days. If you're busy with something, you have your focus time, you're doing code, and then in the break, you check the messages, ideally, unless we are very neurotic. Ta-da!
Don't look left.
Don't look back. Okay. Didn't see it coming. Okay. Interesting. Okay, you can still see. I don't know how it goes into online. Do you see a garbled screen or a readable screen? I mean text.
Readable. Oh, it's okay.
Readable. Lucky you. Yeah, we have both 50-50. Okay, so yeah, so the library of RxJS specifically is designed, well, Rx initiatives in different languages are designed to handle these asynchronous streams of values in a very nicely organized way. So we'll go through the key concepts one by one. I just want to mention them. There's an observer, like a source of values. There's, oh, no. Rewind. These different principles and patterns that are used in RxJS is the concept of observer as a source of information that can be kind of subscribed to. Iterator is something that produces values and can complete at some point. Functional programming, that we pass callbacks and handlers. A pipeline, a very key thing that allows us to organize the processing and chain different handlers. And inversion of control. It's basically the same as callback. Instead of describing what has to be done or when, this inversion of control says, okay, we have this way of processing things. We give it to you, and when you feed values, call these methods. Okay. So why do we need it? Why? It's not just because I like this library, because I happen to learn it, and ultimately, when I went through the complex beginning, I got to like it. But the point is that it has a lot of recipes, patterns that are useful in handling streams of asynchronous data, that if we have them behind or under our belt, then we can reuse these mechanisms. And think Lodash for utilities. I don't know if anybody's still using Lodash. It used to be very popular. Yeah. Or a trendier recent thing, Zod for validation. You can chain a lot of methods. You know how they work. You don't have to unit test them. It's easy to argue when you read something written in a standard library. So RxJs is the same for streams of asynchronous data. It can also be synchronous, by the way, but it handles streams in a universal way. It's composable, as we will see soon on this table. I will compose a pipeline. And as I said, readable. If you know this language, it's like every operator is like a reference to a myth. When you say it's Damocles sword, you know the whole story. If you read an operator, you know what it does, and it's easy for you to understand the intention of your fellow developer in the team. Yeah. And then out of all of this comes added power that you suddenly can handle more scenarios. You think your thinking also becomes more powerful. You have a wider horizon. Yeah. So we'll go through this basic terminology. What we have there is an observable, a stream, an observer, operators, a pipeline, and subscription. So an observable is a lazy source of value stream. Think of a barrel which you can tap into. It can be synchronous or asynchronous. The main thing about it, it can be subscribed to and unsubscribed from, and at some point it can complete. Even a huge cask of whiskey runs to an end at some point. Maybe a more IT example is push notifications. You can subscribe to push notifications and you don't know when they appear, they're push. Yeah. So by definition, they decide when to come to your screen. And at some point when you have enough, you can unsubscribe, or maybe the source of them runs out and you will not get any more. So my first idea as a metaphor for an observable would be a video on demand situation, but it's not, because although you can subscribe to, let's say, Netflix or whatever and unsubscribe from it, it's not like this, because then you decide when to watch a movie. So unlike that, it's like more like push notifications, because the observable decides when to give you values, even if you subscribe. So collecting tree sap, if you're into this, you make a hole in a base tree, you plug a spile, as it's called, and it begins to drip. So this making a hole in a tree is your subscription. The tree is observable. It doesn't give you juice, the sap, until you subscribe, and it only gives you these drops of juice while you have this hole in. When you seal the hole, you unsubscribe. That's it. I never heard about a tree completing its stream of values. Hopefully not. Yeah. Operators are actually pure functions that process observables. They don't just process values. They take in one observable and do something without it, subscribe to it inwardly, transform it in some way, and then they pass on the next observable. So typical ones, some of them are similar to what we do with arrays, like you can filter, pass through certain values and not others. Like you can tap in for side effects when you don't actually change the observer, but you can do some actions depending on values. You can map, converting every value from a stream to the outside stream, and many others, like you can buffer, take some values for a period of time. You can debounce time, which we often need to do in working with forms. Like we don't want to react to every keystroke. We want to wait until the user stops typing and then make a request to the server. Something that comes just with one operator from RxJs. Pipeline is a combination of operators, and you can build a certain way of processing a stream. Like all your operators, you can write a whole story in operators. And I used to compare it with an oil refinery, but I'm not so good at oil. In my free time, I don't refine oil, but I like to play guitars. So I will be using a guitar pedal board as a metaphor for the pipeline. They are lazy in terms of they don't produce values themselves, and they don't start feeding values. They're composable. You can put several operators in a pipeline. You can combine a group of operators and make it a new operator, a whole pipeline. And they're pure functions. So it's easy to test them if you need to create your own. They don't have side effects by definition. They are cool to work with. Yeah, so like a guitar effect doesn't produce sound by itself. It's just a certain way of processing notes that come from the guitar. Yeah, so operators, I think I have described already. They take one observable and output the other one. And they're composable, so you can prepare your pedal board and you will know what flavor of sound, how you will process them. And yeah, so the metaphors, I think I will not be seen, but you can see in this picture, metaphors to, so the whole pedal board is your pipeline. And then some of them, for example, this is a noise gate is a filter. It passes out loud notes and not quiet ones. A flanger is a map. It just changes the way they sound. Yeah, not very precise as every metaphor. And the tap is something you can, as the name suggests, you can tap into the pipeline to get a side effect. Yeah. So let's do it physically. Yeah. Yeah, this is my pipeline. Yeah. So this would be it's a splitter, so it will serve as a tap operator. It has one input and it will pass on the signal later, but it also has a second output. So this is my tap. Tap on the, well, in the guitar world, signals goes from right to left. There is a reason for it. So, and this is my display pitch function that goes out of tap here. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. Maybe I'll put them like this. unusual combination. Yeah. Then we have the filter. It's a noise gate. Don't get any money for advertising this otherwise decent brand. So I chain the operators together. After tap, I have my filter. And then let's say will be, yeah, distortion. Not here. And then a flange. So when you read it in the code, you see it's very declarative. You don't have to say, do this, then take this and do something else. Just like I connect well-tested, well-prepared effect pedals, I have several lines of code here. If I plan to add a distortion, I just uncomment this line. And because you know the operators, it's easy to follow the logic. Yeah. So the pipeline itself would be, this is, by the way, a guitar that belongs to our Wierzchowiec location. This is our answer to work-life balance. Yes, again, a guitar. So this is our observable. It's a source of values. You can play notes with it. Okay, it will not sound if not unsubscribed. This is pipeline. So I connect my operators to the observable, and still it doesn't produce sound. And this is the difference between an observable and a promise. So when you send a promise, when you use a promise, like say you make a network request, it starts working immediately. It's eager. It's not keen. It's eager and keen. It's not lazy. And then in promise you consume the value. In an observable, you can create your pipeline, connect it to an observable, and this will be ready for you to receive values, but you will only begin to receive the values when you actually subscribe. So, which gives extra value, which something we can't do with just promises, because you can abort an observable. You can stop, unsubscribe before you get any value, which you cannot do with promises. Yeah, as a workaround, we have this signal option in the fetch method. So if you make a network request and then you navigate away from your page that needs the result, you can abort. But this is, you have to dance around. With a subscription, you can say, just use another operator and say, I will take the values only until a certain condition. So you can navigate and forget about it, and the result will not be processed. Another thing that you can just do with just one operator is to retry an attempt. Like in a promise, you'll have to, I make this request to a server. I can handle an error if it happens, but to retry, I cannot just tell the promise, well, then catch error, retry. No. But with observables, it's just one operator. You just add it to a pipeline, retry 5, let's say, and it will retry 5, make 5 attempts, and then it will pass an error through. Yeah, so this is the extra power and ease. You don't have to reinvent these wheels. They are already invented for you. And then the show begins. We subscribe. If we have juice here. Let me do my subscription. Adrian, can I use the red ones? Zamiast ładowarki, good. Ooh. I will bring the observer. I hope you can see it online.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. And this is the actual moment of subscription. One out. Yes. Beautiful sound. Huh? Now, I will modify my pipeline. No, this was not the way it was supposed to sound. Okay, doesn't matter. You get the metaphor. Yeah, error handling. We need to retry. We'll retry after the presentation. Okay, that's not the point. We still have some minutes. Yeah? So this is the benefits. Except that I mentioned the board retry and so on. Except for Angular, where it's part of the business, part of the framework itself. We have some RxJs-based state management systems that you can use in other frameworks, like React, for example, React RxJs, Redux Observable, and so on. Mobex, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Do you know some other state management systems with RxJs? Yeah. Well, Nginx for Angular, yes. Yeah. And so on, but yes, this we have a list here. So now, I hope it will work better than the musical subscription thing. I want to show an example of using RxJS for some asynchronous programming. So I will switch to, yeah, you can see my code, hopefully. Yeah, I'll make it bigger. Is it readable at all? No? Can I make it larger? Oh. Command plus, yeah, this is exactly what's not working. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, slightly better. Okay, so I will describe it with it's not that application at all. Yeah, so this is microphone meter. So maybe I will just demonstrate the effect. Okay, so using this microphone. How unfortunate. Oh yeah. Now it's metering. Okay. So this is a microphone meter online. So it accesses the audio context, gets some data, and displays the peak. So far, this is just plain vanilla JavaScript. Well, actually TypeScript, because I like it better, but it doesn't use any libraries. Okay, so what I do here, I request animation frame. So before every repaint of the web page, I measure the volume, take a buffer of some 2000 values, get the maximum one, and this is how roughly it shows me the microphone level meter. Okay, so far we don't need RxJs. We have asynchronous processing using the browser API and native JavaScript. But what if we want to show those sticky peak indicators? You know, what was the peak level over the last second? How do we do it? Any suggestions? We would need to store this information in some variable, display it. But let me just take us to the RxJS solution for it. Yeah, so first I just install RxJS as a dependency and use an operator. Check out revision. Okay, so on the outside, it's still working the same way. And I measured the performance, it's exactly the same. There's no degradation in performance. The paint, the script times are exactly the same. So this is how it looks, more or less. So I have this operator interval that just gives me intervals every that many milliseconds, and I subscribe and I pass my function to update level. So far, there's no improvement because it's just a subscription. But then I will start to take the peaks. Well, first, maybe I will refactor my code a little bit to make it more declarative. So here I have my interval stream that just gives me ticks, numbers at intervals. I have my pipeline and I map every tick into, replace it with the maximum value of sound. So instead of number of ticks, out of my pipeline, there come these peak levels of sound. And then my subscription callback is just display level. So I split this function that had major concern of just updating the level and displaying it into separate. The updating part goes into the map operator and the display goes into the subscription. Yeah, and then I will use tap to actually, I will use buffer time as the ready operator out of the box to actually analyze. You see, I added it. Buffer time, I just included it in the pipeline between other operators. So now, out of this buffer time, I will have not values measured every 25th of a second, but I will get an aggregated value over the last second. And this I will use for peak. So for that, I move my function to display level before that. So I can still display every 25 frames per second, this green thing. And then the orange thing that's moving is the peak over the last second. Second, if it's louder, then it's tall, and then it falls down. So just a few operators, and so much is done with that. Yeah. And so I noticed that something is wrong here. When I speak louder, then the green level jumps out of the peak. So I will actually add another tap operator to update my peak whenever the sound goes louder. Check out this. Yeah, so now, if suddenly the volume grows very high, it will push the peak level up, push the peak level up, and then but at the same time, I see the current level and the last peak level. And all of it happens in the space of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 operators and empty subscribe. And for someone who knows RxJS, this is easy to follow. Even for someone who doesn't quite know RxJS, you see a map operator. So if you know array map, you can probably figure out what it is. So this is, of course, it's not an introduction into the API of RxJS. It's more a flavor of a mindset, how we think about it, that we work with streams. And if I were to take it further, what I would do in an actual situation of component-based user interface development, I would just pass around observables, and I would have a component that takes an observable and inside of it knows what to do with it. Subscribe displays the meter, and so that it makes it more, the control is more inverse. The application doesn't have to command every component what they should do. It's just passes, just like we pass around functions in a functional programming, we pass around observables in reactive programming, and our code units know how to handle them or decide how to handle. Okay. So back to our presentation. Good. So, and this is already part of the best practices. So the best practices in reactive programming is to work as much on observables as possible. So those who begin to work with Angular have this tendency to subscribe to observable, get a static value you can hold on to, and then give it to your template. Now, whereas the proper Angular way is to pass an observable, use an async pipe that updates it and unsubscribes, does things under the hood. It's important to unsubscribe after we subscribe to avoid memory leaks, because we don't want to receive and handle values after they're no longer needed. It's important to remember that with observables like those that come from HTTP requests that wrap a promise in, you will get as many streams as the times you subscribe to. So if you want to share values, you need a special way. You need to do something to multicast your stream to many subscribers. Yeah, so the common pitfalls are not following the best practices. So you can actually cause extra requests if you do not multicast. You will cause memory leaks if you don't unsubscribe, and so on. But I don't want to get stuck with it. Any questions, suggestions, protests?
Yeah, I have a question. So normally people who work with Angular, they obviously use RxJS, right? But for example, from your point of view, for people who works with React, does it make sense to include this library to your project, or maybe some precondition where it makes sense or not?
I would say it doesn't make sense to. The question, yeah, I will repeat the question for you. Does it make sense to use RxJS in a React application? And I would say follow the tradition of the what? No. Yeah, you can follow the heart, but on the rational side, follow the tradition, follow the tool. Yeah? We don't need to over-engineer things and just use a library because it's cool. Just a tool because it's cool is not cool. But when you run into a situation when you actually need some extra power to handle things, then it's quite possible that RxJS is a good solution. Like if you want to retry in your network requests, you can check a library like promise retry. You can probably create your own function, but then the cost of using RxJS is not big. Yeah? Like I compared the build size, it was 25 kilobytes without RxJS and 149 with RxJS. So on the scale of an application, it's not much. You may benefit from it. If you have a lot of asynchronous streams of values, then your heart should tell you maybe it's time to check RxJS. If you just if you read an entity from the database, display it on the page, let the user enter new values, update it, maybe not.
I would just add that RxJS can be cool for handling dump events, because we are able to create observables out of the dump events, and then handle them in a declarative way, as Piotr has shown.
Yeah.
So in React project, that could be a nice use case.
Yeah. It's kind of, maybe it's possible to do things without RxJS, but when you begin to use it, you say, oh, that was so cool here. Like I can retry. I can actually debounce everything. I can wait until the events stop coming every split second and then take an aggregated value. And then you just remember it was one operator in RxJS. So maybe we can just refactor our code quickly. So if you know it, then this refactoring is quite quick. It's not a project I spent a month on. It was a demonstration that I was actually intending to do live during a different conference. So I adapted it for this one. So that's the point, that these solutions, they become natural and easy. But it's not everywhere like this. In some projects, you are fine with static generated context, then you don't need RxJS. Right? But then when it comes to indicating progress, again, maybe it's nice, like you will not have to update the progress indicator every split second if it really happens, if the whole thing happens in 1/3 of a second, then maybe you don't need a progress indicator at all. And sometimes if it stretches long, then maybe you do. It just depends. I would say the rule of thumb, do you have dynamic streams of data or not? In a telemetric application, in a streaming application, in some kind of, if you get a lot of reactions to, let's say, you're building a social network, you get a lot of user reactions. Maybe there it makes sense.
When you work with WebSockets.
Yeah, you can combine WebSockets with RxJS. And I wanted to mention that this messaging that is in the browser it also feels very much reactive, because you can exchange messages between windows in the same browser, between a web worker and the window. But then again, it depends on how many of this you have.
Could you give an advice how to figure out these reasons for some object when this object is used in multiple threads? For example, one thread is using this object, and another one thread is changing this object.
Well, in JavaScript, we don't have this collision because it's a single thread thing. If you have a web worker, then you will. RxJS has more complex operators that are actually very good at choreographing several streams. You can flatten them and make them into a one stream. You can zip them and take one from that and one from the other. I will ask you guys to write your names later so that we can pick the best question.
How do you reach a version of control in your application, like with some containers for it, dependency injection, containers maybe?
Well, there are very different ways. I think it's good just good to know the name of the pattern so you can think when to use it. Maybe it's time to use it. Usually when thing becomes like cumbersome and you have to do a lot, whenever I need to have a data structure like an array in some component, I think, oh, maybe it's time to delegate the management of this thing to a subcomponent. Whenever the component needs to get a lot of information from its parent, I think, oh, maybe it's time to invert control and just tell the parent that something happened. So you can invert control in different directions, from a parent to a child, from a child to a parent. And sometimes you can, let's say you're creating a reusable component and you feel that, oh, it feels very similar here. I have a very similar button here with a different function, and there is a similar button with a different function. So maybe I will let the parent put something inside this component. Instead of doing it in this component, I will make a hole, like a slot for it, and let the parent put something into this hole. And I think in Angular, it would be content projection. In React, it's high order components, I think, with accordion example in Material UI. The accordion doesn't know what's inside, but if you use an accordion, then your parent component can put a button inside this accordion and interact with this button directly through. So this is another example of inversion control.
Okay, I think that I need to stop you here, Piotr, because we have questions from offline part. So I think that you have already pizza in the kitchen, so you can discuss it offline. We don't have questions online. So I think that I want to say you thank you. And also Yaroslav asked me to share the results of the questions that he asked in the beginning. And then we can stop the online part and you will continue your discussion during the time. But please stop sharing the screen and I will share my screen with the results of the question.
Okay, I stopped.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you, Alvina.
perfect.
And thank you all for literally such warm atmosphere. I think my ears are burning. It was cold there when we came here, but now it's really warm here. Thank you for the human warmth, Yaroslav.
Yeah, thank you,
Yes,
Piotr.
Yaroslav, please comment this slide and
Yeah, do you remember, guys, we just spoken about your opinion over that poll, you scanned the QR codes. So among of us and all our online users, we have on the first place performance, which is great. I think it is very, very important. We not mentioned it in the presentation a lot, but still I do agree. The second one is SEO optimization, which is I do like as well. The third is cost optimization, that I was talking about, accessibility, target devices, and multiple languages version on the bottom of our list. So it is very interesting. I think it's fun for us to like know. Could you please raise your hands who voted for performance? Yeah, then SEO. Yes, cost optimization. Oh, oh no. Yes, for different orders. So the ones who placed on the first time. So first, who got first place target devices? Oh, and multiple language versions. Do we have? All right. So I guess we could have a present.
Yeah, we will stop the online part. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone who joined online and who is till the end here. Also, we will have the recording of this meetup, so you can rewatch it or send it to your friends. People who are offline, thank you for joining, and pizza and the good networking is waiting for you in the kitchen. Have a nice evening and bye.